It's being called an epidemic, and the British capital is bearing the brunt. 4 men have been stabbed to death in the British capital in the space of just 5 days. The youngest to die was only 15 years old, and that brings the total number of murders in London to 118 since the start of the year.
Rising knife crime.
Knife crime epidemic.
An average of 3 killings a week.
Londoners don't feel safe.
One senior police officer has said that children as young as 9 and 10 are now carrying knives, and compared the situation to the Wild West, with attacks taking place in broad daylight in front of passers-by and CCTV cameras. But the reasons behind the surge in violent crime are now the subject of fierce national debate. Police federations blame cuts to police funding. There are around 20,000 fewer police officers now than there were 8 years ago, while the rate of violent crime has shot up. The Home Office's own leaked documents, though, suggest that there is a link between cuts to police budgets and serious violent crime. London's mayor says that it's a deadly combination.
We have fewer officers than any time since 2003. At a time when our population is going up, it's more and more difficult.
And yet a government minister has denied the link between cuts and crime, pointing to other factors instead, like social media.
The claim about police numbers isn't supported by the evidence of previous spikes in serious violence. The nature of crime is changing. The gangs are using social media to communicate. They're using mobile communications in a way that 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, simply was not possible.
Back in 2015, an award-winning senior police officer warned Theresa May, who was Home Secretary at the time, that cutting funds for the police would risk national security.
We run the risk here of letting communities down, putting officers at risk, and ultimately risking national security.
Up until now, the government's managed to deny that slashing police budgets would put public safety at risk. But as the death toll mounts and public concern increases, arguing that there's no link between budget cuts and violent crime is going to be more difficult.
I've absolutely no idea why Theresa May, who was Home Secretary for most of the last 8 years before she became Prime Minister, I've no idea at all why she didn't listen to the warnings. The government are denying there's a link between the rises in crime, the levels of violent crime on our streets and the number of police officers, for the very simple reason that they know that if there is a link established, they will be held responsible. They are responsible. The whole thing is a total shambles, and it will take at least 10 years, if not longer, to sort it back out if we started tomorrow. And they've given no indication of starting tomorrow.